There's a lot of buzz around initial coin offerings, or ICOs. Now, what are they, and how do they impact the crypto asset markets? Can you even invest in them? In this section, we'll answer all those questions. So at the end of this section, you'll be able to explain the relationship of IPOs and crowdfundings to ICOs, and you'll also be able to evaluate ICOs. With 2017's rise in the crypto asset markets came the dawn of the initial coin offering, or ICO. Now, ICOs to the cryptocurrency markets are very reminiscent of the initial public offering during the dot-com phase. Now, ICOs are like a hybrid of an IPO and a crowdfunding mechanism. And in these transactions, investors contribute Bitcoin or Ethereum and then receive a new token. It's important to note, though, that just because this transaction has occurred, you don't necessarily receive your tokens immediately. You might have to wait 3, maybe 6 months until the new token is issued. I would also note that for most of these ICOs, the earliest investors receive a discount compared to later stage investors. So let's take a look at some recent offerings on a website called tokendata.io. So Token Data is a great resource that aggregates all initial coin offering information and puts it in one easy to sort area. And when you look at this site, you can see how much US dollar was raised for each of these initial coin offerings. You can see the month when they were raised and the sale price and current price. Now, a couple things I'll note. If you look at Filecoin, which is a very large offering of 200 million, you'll see there's no sale price and current price. And like I noted before, the investors in Filecoin still haven't received their token yet, so it's not free to trade. Same thing with the DAO. This is actually an ICO that failed. Polkadot is another one that was completed, but investors never received their token just yet. So if you scroll down, you can also see the return on some of these ICOs have been astronomical. Here's an ICO called Icon that so far has generated a 34 times return on your initial investment. And here's another one called Electronium, which is an anonymous form of cryptocurrency that returned over 11 times your money. Now, if you want to see some of the upcoming ICOs, if you click on the ICO calendar tab, here are some ICOs that are in the pipeline. It'll tell you what date they will be offered and also how many days you have left to contribute either Bitcoin or Ethereum. You can also look at the white papers of the specific coin that you're thinking about investing in. And so this gives you a really good resource if you're thinking about moving into the initial coin offering market. So let's look at some cryptocurrency ICO stats for 2017. Now, this chart gives me an overview of how much capital was raised in 2017. And the first thing you'll note is that $3.7 billion went to ICOs, and this dwarfed the $1.7 billion of venture capital money that went to internet startups. You also note that in the summer was an extremely lucrative time for ICOs. There were months in June and July that raised over $600 billion. In September, you had over $800 billion. Now, you're wondering, where did most of this capital go to? Well, the top 10 ICOs accounted for a lot of that aggregate number. Filecoin raised $257 million. Tezos raised $232 million. You have Paragon that raised $183 million. Now, where or what type of projects were investors looking for? The large majority of projects were in the infrastructure space. And second behind that was trading and investing with decentralized and centralized exchanges. You also have 11% going to energy and utilities. So you'll see that the majority of ICOs last year went to infrastructure that are building the backbone of the blockchain ecosystem. With the digital gold rush and the ICO boom in 2017 came scams and frauds and different pump and dump schemes that you need to be cautious about. So if you're thinking about moving into these ICO markets, there's some key considerations you should consider. First, what's the decentralization edge? Specifically, what does the protocol do that's better than the centralized system it's trying to compete against? Next, who are the team and advisors? Now, every single white paper and new protocol and ICO has a group of people behind it that are working to make this plan come to reality. And to look up the team and advisors, you can check out their LinkedIn or their Twitter page, and you want to make sure that these are credible people behind the protocol, because you can't trust a protocol until you trust the people behind it. And lastly, what's the asset supply schedule? Now, in the crypto world, you want to make sure that something has scarcity value. And what I mean by that is you want to buy into protocols that only have a limited amount of tokens that will be issued. For instance, in Bitcoin, it has scarcity value because we know there can only be 21 million Bitcoins in existence, and there's only been 18 million printed so far. So asset supply schedule is key to understanding whether or not it will have value in the future. Now, the ICO boom in 2017 was like the Wild West. Some investors made fortunes while others lost their shirts. So it wasn't long before regulatory agencies in the United States started looking into these ICOs and ruling on them. So the first question that the regulatory bodies wanted to know is, are ICOs securities? And recently, SEC Chairman Jay Clayton ruled, yes, ICOs are securities. They fulfill what's known as the Howey test, which is a framework designed to tell you what a security is, and it was outlined in the Securities Act of 1933. The next question is, do they need to be registered? And the truth is, if something is a security, the new offering needs to be registered. So now ICOs are going to fall under a registration basket where they need to be registered with the SEC. So to buy an ICO, you need to be an accredited investor, which means you need to have a certain level of income and a certain level of net worth. So this is something to think about if you are considering moving into the ICO market. So that concludes our section on ICOs. Now you should be able to explain the relation of IPOs and crowdfunding to ICOs, and also you should be able to evaluate ICOs. Not just consider them as an investment, but also think about how they might be regulated in the future.